Okay, we are recording. Great. Okay, so this webinar, 2018, first one of the year, is a little combination of some QSM3 philosophy, chiropractic philosophy, vitalistic philosophy, tensegrity, and then how that relates to some case studies and real life people that I take care of and what I see, so that I could share my experiences with you to kind of help you through things that you may be going through. So one of the amazing things that that dawned on me, it was probably about 2 years ago, is we spend a lot of time in school with anatomy and physiology. Okay, here's this muscle here, and here's that muscle there, and that attaches here. Here's its origin. Here's its assertion. Here's the heart. Here's all this kind of stuff. And we understand the system. The kidney does this, and the nephron does this, and all these physiologies. But we don't see the human body globally, and that's one of the things that I think is really important to do, to really do quality work, is to start looking at this thing as an alive system. So from a textbook, okay, the frontal position of the human body needs to be straight. That's the right here. Change that. Let's see about this. So this is a picture of somebody's back or front, whatever it is. I don't know what a marker is. Probably the back. And it shows a nice straight spine, nice straight ilium, nice and horizontal, nice vertical spine, nice shoulder balance, nice neck, nice head. And then the other side is the sagittal plane that shows the curves in the body. And one of the things that I started to notice is that this is very important information so that we can understand a game plan to start helping people beyond just, I'm going to push in here and make some changes, is what do we want to do to this thing, and what should it look like in its pure natural position? And it should be nice and straight. We should have some curves. And I was telling a new patient today, I said, the human body has a huge power system. And the largest energy user to the system is standing up against gravity, okay? It's the most complicated system because it's the only system, my friends, that what? We're not born with. We have to learn it. Our body needs to come out of the pot and go ahead and grow a nervous system and a muscle system and a tensegrity system that actually can support us standing up, okay? And it does that by creating these sagittal curves. So what we see is a system that is very stable right here. It's straight. And what do the curves give us? The curves give us bounce. Okay, see, we're not a building over here. And we're not just a bouncy ball over here. We're a open system that is sitting up against gravity that should, when we jump and walk, we should bounce. And that's what the curve system does. That curve system is supported by the frontal system. And if you start looking at the muscles, okay, you go, oh, the traps are here and the lats are there. We don't have that picture here. But if you look at it, you will see they are no different than the way that man puts up guy wires on a telephone pole. Is they stretch across and they stretch across. And if you look at the human body's back, it is nothing but one triangle after one triangle after one triangle supporting this system. So I look at this system as a giant tree. Here is Earth. It's called the pelvis. All the root systems go into here. How do I know? Okay, because the butt has the most amount of musculature in the whole body. No question about it. The biggest lever. Why? Because it's these roots down here on planet Earth, called the pelvis, that support this whole tree here. And it's such a cool system, okay, that universal intelligence put in a shoulder. And the shoulders are for a secondary platform, and this is Earth, to this other tree. Okay, see all these guy wires here, and all these guy wires here called muscles, and that system is pushing up against gravity, and that's what tensegrity is about. It says that the human system is basically in tension. It's open body, okay? So I look at the human body as a giant balloon with a skeletal system within it Okay, no different than a heart is within it. And the skeletal system is there to give us some form so that we can do things. Otherwise, we would just be rolling down the street if we were just a balloon. Okay? We have a complicated nervous system that allows our posture to stand up. It allows it to be rigid and stable and bouncy. And it also, that skeletal system gives us an opportunity to do fine motor movements at every level. Okay? So I went ahead and graduated chiropractic school just like everybody else, and I did my thing. And I came out looking at pieces and parts, and you'll see many systems and most systems in chiropractic pretty much look at pieces and parts, okay? And what I've tried to do is just try to integrate what other people have done, okay, Gonstead down into the pelvis, and why you see heat, and why you see wedges, and why you see fixation, and why you see an atlas out of place, is all those are truths, but they're only truths of pieces of this system, okay? So I started looking at the structures, I started looking at the neurology, and I started to look at gravity. And one day while I was working up in the upper cervical area, I said to myself, you know, I'm a mechanical engineer. You got this big pelvis down there, and the pelvis is anterior on this side, but my atlas is posterior. I said, big things move little things, and I began the journey to try to look at this thing as a three-dimensional system, okay? And that's what we're going to talk about philosophically a little bit. So textbook, we should have this nice frontal system that's nice and strong. We should have a nice sagittal system that has these curves. We've got two curves that lordotically pull us back in the cervicals and the lumbars, and then we have another curve in the thoracic. So we have two curves. Okay, that's. Let me just get back to that. It's actually so fascinating. It just blows me away because I just love the way universal intelligence just makes everything. It's just so cool. So this curve right here creates tension right here. So we have two tension systems pulling us backwards and one of them pulling us forward. That's this one. Two back, one forward. What do you think that gets us to do? Stand up. All right. So when that breaks down, okay, and there's trauma to that system, guess what happens? It's just not as strong, okay? The difference of a building that starts falling down and is traumatized is that this is an alive system that has neurology. And it actually goes ahead and tries to put the head up on center, okay? If it's banged around enough, multiple traumas, the neurology and innate intelligence will always do what it can 100%, even though it may be unable to restore a centered position, but it will always maintain a least stress position, even if it's horrible. Okay? Because that's what it's made to do. Okay? It's to give 100% all the time. Okay? So, what I notice is presently is that we have every human being that has come into the office has trauma and has a neurological system that tries to balance it. It's got gravity and it's got time that it starts breaking down, okay? And what has happened is we end up having physical symptoms, okay, in those stressed areas. It's so easy to see. Actually, with all my new patients, I do their diagnostics. I take their x-rays and I put them on the posture IQ before I even talk to them because I want to be able to look at their information from the outside and the inside from a structural point of view and see why they're having trouble. No other system even looks at that. It's fascinating. Okay, so one of the big breakthroughs that I see in QSM3 is that we have something called a postural listing. And what it is it looks like this. And what it is a discussion and a conversation from a structural, from a neurologic, from a time, and from a gravity stress expression on what's going on in the body. Okay? And what I mean by that is if you look at this postural listing here, it says that I have a right low hip. It's not pertaining to the picture. Okay, this is just a random postural listing. It says I have a right low hip. It says that I have a right tilted spine. I have 12 pounds on the left. I have a twist of 11 in the shoulder posterior on the left. A twist of anterior on the left of the pelvis. I have a tilt of the shoulders on the left, a twist of the neck, and a tilt in the head. Okay? And I can look at that, and I can pass that on to somebody like Andy Smith, and he will know what is going on in this postural listing that is creating problems for the patient. Okay? So, what we do is we measure 6 things, and that's what makes up that postural listing. We measure that low hip. We measure the relationship of the center of L5 to the top of C7. We call that the fixed point. We measure the weight off center. Okay? We measure the shoulder tilt, the neck tilt, and the head tilt. And those things we put together into this postural listing to try to understand how to go ahead and restore this thing to what's called sustainable and balanced. Okay? So the purpose of what I try to do is I look at the structures, I look at the function, and here is structures, and here is function. The interesting thing about the body is that if the structures go to the right, what do you think the head should do? It should turn back to the left. Okay? So within this postural listing, I can see the dysfunctions in it, which means the things are not working well. So if my pelvis is down on the right, my spine should also go to the right. So I know that that's correct. Okay. What I also know is that if the spine and the pelvis are leaning to the right, it's probably about 80% of my body weight. How does this thing have 12 pounds on the left? Okay. You see, misalignment gets so traumatized, so damaged, that they get so scrambled up that everybody in chiropractic has looked at pieces and parts and not stepped back and looked at the relationship between structure and that the way that the function responds, how the head should tilt. Okay, if you're a chiropractor or you're in chiropractic school and I showed you a full spine x-ray and I showed you pelvis going one way and a spine going that way, there's nowhere in school that you were taught that those are supposed to be together or opposing each other. What should the head do in relationship to the shoulder? What should the weight do in relationship to the head? And if you don't know these things, how do you know how to take care of this thing? So I look at normal, and I was able to find out, because this is a structure and a neurology system, and I started looking at what is normal for people when they're traumatized, okay? And I started learning the relationships between the structures and the function, okay? We have those 6 things that I told you about, basically the low hip all the way up to the head. Well, you have to know what their relationship should be, okay? Because we cannot go ahead and bring somebody back to the position of textbook. Once it's damaged, it's damaged. So guys, if you haven't been with us, a question I'd like to know and just ask yourself is, what should we be doing with something like that? What is the goal? Where do we start? What kind of trouble is it in? Should I push it on the right? Should I push it on the left? Maybe I should push it on both sides. Where should I opportunely push this so that I can get this stabilized? And then what is a measure system that actually tracks that to see if you're making changes? Okay? If you got zigzags all over the body, you know, the postural listing is fascinating because it really tells me 3 things, okay, that I tell my patients. I said it tells me the compression in the body, okay? So compression is basically, I tell my patients that if you're carrying a suitcase and you have to put it down, you can't do it anymore, that's when the body starts rotating and twisting. That is a fundamental direct relationship to compression. So the bigger the rotations in the pelvis, the bigger the rotations in the shoulder, guess what that means? It means that that body is not able to handle that configuration. Okay? So when this person has a twist of 11 in the shoulder, 10 is the highest scale. When it goes after 11, I tell those people that they're down on the ground. So this configuration right here Okay, this RRL, P11, A5, LLR. It's just the way we speak, okay? Can actually tell me how the structures are integrated, how the neurology is integrated. That in itself is a mouthful in chiropractic. How the energy is being handled in this configuration, this RRL, LLR, and there's 12 pounds of gravity on top of it. So the first piece is to remove that compression. That is job one. The second piece is that we look at is how do these numbers change? Okay, 12 pounds off the center is too much. 11 twist is too much. How do they start changing? So we want to release this system upward. That's the compression. We want to go ahead and reduce the numbers of the compression and the weight. And then what's the last thing? Is we want to start organizing this thing so that it is in the most strength, the most powerful position. How do we organize the bricks? I got zigzags all over the place. Okay, zigzags are not cool. All right, we can't make this straight, but we can make this into a position that we call balanced. Okay, so what I've been talking about, what I've been talking about is looking at the human body from a global perspective of their low pelvis, their spine, their shoulders, their neck, their head, their weight, understanding those relationships in a traumatized system, understanding the relationships between the traumatized system, the structure, and the neurology, understanding how the compression and the twist affect the body and what those mean as the energetic capacity of the body, and understanding what those numbers mean so that we can restore something and integrate this thing, kind of stack the bricks back so we can get it to a place of sustainability. All right. Basically, I tell my patients, I said, listen, you're standing on one leg with a 50-pound suitcase hanging over a train track, and I want to get you down on 2 feet holding a 3-pound handbag. No problem. Women do it all day long. More than 3 pounds. Kids hold big knapsacks. So that is kind of the job for me, is to understand this thing, and that starts with this thing called this postural listing, which is the only expression, and not just chiropractic, in all of structural biomechanics that actually shows the relationships between structure, function, neurology, time, gravity, and the stress and collapse in the system. No question about it. And it's measurable. So, down is down. Grandma always falls down. Okay? Grandma always falls down and always falls forward. So one of the purposes that we do in this system is to try to restore that integrity and that sustainability. And that, again, starts with this relationship right here. And every patient has a different one. Every patient has structural stresses, functional responses that may be normal and not normal, different stressors, okay, because different listings have different stressors. Okay, if this person had all R's and they're leaning 22 pounds off to the right and everything's leaning off to the right, it's a very different expression than this zigzag that's going on. This is a right, right, left, 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 right. So just figure that from the bottom up. Right, right, left, 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 right. Okay, so when you start looking at these little stick figures, you start understanding what the dysfunctions are, what the learned normals are, what the relationships are, and the process to start understanding how this thing is broken down and a path towards correcting it. Okay, so we can't know how to help somebody until we understand at a deeper level the human body, right? And the human body is beyond the conversation that we're having in chiropractic today. Because the only conversation that we're having right now is this measures this, and this bone is here. This bone is 4 degrees this way. It's a PRS that way. It's 2 millimeters down from this way. The only thing that we're doing now in chiropractic is measuring the end game of where it is. Okay? So you go to the medical doctor, and a patient goes to a medical doctor before they come to you, and they say that you have osteoarthritis, you have some disc degeneration at C5. Now, what is the purpose of that? Because I don't care what somebody calls anything. What is the purpose of saying I have a right low hip if I don't understand the whole system as a story and a life force? So that's the conversation that I'm having with people, is that there is a structure and a neurology, and this thing is alive, okay? And in QSM3, There are a couple groups that also use current tensegrity, the biostructure that's current in the big dogs are doing the biostructure stuff. Okay, like Don Ingber up in Harvard. Okay, at the Weiss Institute. There are plenty of people that are looking at the human body as a tensebral position. And where we're looking at it in our profession presently is a bone out of place, a lack of curves, there's heat here, a leg is short, and this conversation that I take to you is a conversation about, I can look at this and I know the stress that it's in, and I know what I need to do to get it released. And it's a fantastic system in current chiropractic. Okay, so when this thing breaks down, all it does is collapse. And many systems in chiropractic basically just put force in. If you do upper cervical work, you're basically putting force down probably about 80 to 90% of the time. And if you look at this thoracic curve, it's compressed. Okay, so the work we do is to trying to go ahead and lift this thing up. So we measure it, we look at the postural dysfunctions, and what we do is we project a direction at which a misalignment is going to pop out. I'm going to talk about this a little more, okay? So, and then we come up with some type of functional release. In QSM3, where we are right now, is we look at the posture. I'm going to just kind of talk to this just for a moment, okay? This is kind of more of a mod 3 kind of conversation where we're going into here. But the thing right here is, if you look at it, what we try to do here is we look at this postural listing and we say, how is this thing going to set up? Okay, in normal biomechanics, we should have. Let me get my pen out. We should have this one. Yeah. We should have that when the pelvis goes off center, the spine should come with it, and the weight should come with it also. And then the shoulders, neck, and head should turn back through the righting reflex. So the pelvis, the spine, and weight are the structural components, and that's right here. Those should all be on one side. So you already see there's a problem that the weight is not on one side. That's the same side with these guys. And then the shoulders, neck, and head should turn back. Well, that doesn't happen either. The shoulders, neck kind of turn back to the main part here, but the head is kind of messed up. It goes to the right. Well, I understand why that's happening, okay? Because the head is tilting right because there's something left down below, all right? So what we do is we look at this, and I say, this thing really, most likely, the easiest way for this thing to set up is it's going to set up as a right, right, right on this side, and down to the left, 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 okay? So what the heck does that mean? That means that we can't make straight anymore on the frontal plane. What we can do is create a small curve between 0 and 3 pounds, okay, where the structure of the pelvis and the spine go one way with weight, and the shoulders, neck, and head come back. It's sitting over top itself between 0 and 3 pounds, and it's 0 to 3 pounds twisted. So now I know what I need to do. I need to get the weight on the right, and when the weight goes to the right, this left weight is this head compensation is a compensation for this left weight, okay? So the head never subluxates. The head always compensates. So if you look at the head in a listing, there's something down below that has gone left. Here's my direct relation between neurology here and structure here, okay? So my job here is I set this up on the left side up, and I release it and open it this way. Let me erase all this. Hopefully you're getting a little. Hold on, guys. Okay, well, my eraser is not working. All right, so in QSM3, what we're doing is we're projecting a way that this thing is going to set up. It's either going to be a right, 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 left, 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 or a left, 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 right, right, right. It's either going to go turn a little bit to the left down at the bottom, pelvis, spine, and then turn back the opposite way, or vice versa, okay? So we adjust people with function side up. And when we open this curve here, all right, what we try to do is we try to restore tensegrity, and that's what I'm going to talk about right now. Okay, so we measure this thing, we see the postural dysfunctions, we project this setup, and then we functionally release. And then what happens is I'm going to watch on the posture IQ what is happening. Okay. All right. So what that means is we have a concept of opening. All right. So the postural listing and every human spine is compressed. It will go ahead and pop open like a spring coming upward at some place out in the stratosphere. All right. So what do I mean by that? Okay. So if I look at things like in a funnel. So if you have a funnel and the human body is compressed down, when I let it go, it's going to come somewhere out that funnel 360 degrees. I tell my patients that if they fell through a hole in the ice, the body has been breaking down for X amount of time, and I need to find that path back from where they are to that hole to up and open. So what we do is we look at a misalignment like this, and we want to see how it is going to lift up and out. We call it open. What is that in biostructure language? Up and open is tensigral, okay, is restoring that. So we set up a release, and the interesting thing that I found is that misalignments can release any which way and direction. What I used to do, and there's a bunch of people that have been on since the beginning of time here, where we learned in chiropractic is this bone is out of place here, and I'm going to push it back in. And I used to push it, 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 and guess what happens? It didn't do anything a lot of the time, okay? And what I found is that if I could find the place, kind of the key in the lock, in the postural, in the person's structure, if I could find the combination that allows this thing to rise up and release and kind of allow the nervous system to be free, guess what happens? It starts doing what it needs to do on its own, okay? So this concept of opening is basically a concept of trying to lift this thing up and out and find the way that the body will up and open. This weight will go to the right side. This rotation will reduce down to 0 to 3 millimeters, and these will become all L's. So these become all R's. The weight is between 0 and 3 pounds. The twist is between 0 and 3 millimeters, and these are all opposing the structure. Structure, neurology, gravity, and energetic capacity. And if you can take a spring and compress it down and then take your hand off it, that is the concept of what I'm talking about. So what I found is that if I can lift this thing and allow it to open up in the right path, because I'm helping it through that path, okay? Kind of like there's a bent up nail in a piece of wood and you got to wiggle it out in a certain direction. That's what we have to find in that as a global perspective in the human body, okay? And what it does is it frees this thing, it stacks, it opens up. Imagine 6 sticks. I use a lot of analogies. Hopefully you hear those. Sometimes it becomes cumbersome. I'm sorry, but it relates to a lot of different people. But if you had 6 sticks sitting on top of each other vertically, stick on top of stick on top of stick, okay, if you push that down, all those sticks would collapse. If you lift that up and open it, those sticks could pop back into place. And that's what happens is we lift it, we allow it, we free it, and guess what happens? I have gone from a place where I stopped pushing these things, thinking where they should go, to trying to find a place where innate intelligence is actually telling me how to release it and let it go. It's probably the most important thing that I've said tonight, is that I try to find a place that those 6 zigzag compressed structures can pop up and out, that they can actually integrate themselves. We call that open. And once that happens, the body starts balancing itself, It's integrating itself, and it starts reducing these numbers. Why? Because it's inherently made to do that. Any questions? Okay. All right. All right. And that's what I see. Hey, Russ. So what I found is that I can look at a postural listing, and that's real. Okay. I can project the way it's going to set up. I can release it. But those are things that I think. Okay, not things from fact. Once I release something, once I adjustively release the body and get in there and put my piezoform on them and release aside, it's the post that I see that is really the biggest truth and the first truth that I get of how the body responded. Because I may think it's going to go one way, and guess what happens? It does the complete opposite. And that's what we're going to talk about in those cases tonight. Okay? So the first thing is, does this thing open? And I don't care if you want to reduce the head tilt, okay, because somebody's got a migraine, if somebody's got a back tilt or a twist, nothing is important until you reduce the rotation and open it, okay? I don't care what the weight is. I don't care what the zigzag is. I care about only finding the path where the rotation reduces. Once that happens, I then look at the weight. And the weight is interesting because weight can reduce. I adjust it, and it goes from right 10 to right 2. I like that. Between 0 and 3 pounds, it's normal. Okay? It can increase. It can go right 10 to right 20. I don't dislike that. I used to dislike that because I didn't know what to do, but now I know what happens. You know, I was told that I adjusted somebody and the plane line kicked up. Well, that's an expression that I see in how things unwind now. Okay, I don't look at them as problems. I look at them as parts of the path. It's like playing golf and you're on a par 5. Okay, after the first shot, if you're not done, you're not done. Okay, but you have to know how to finish. All right. So weight can reduce or increase. Right 2 to right 10 to right 2, reduce, or right 10 to right 20. And it also can move towards you or move away from you. So let's just say I adjust somebody on the right. When you release something, it should move away from you. So what happens if I'm on the right side, I have a right 10 in weight, and I adjust it, and it goes to right 20? Well, it's getting bigger, and it's moving away from me. Those are two things. It's increasing, and it's moving away. What happens if I'm adjusting on the right side, and it goes from right 10 to left 2? Okay? It's reducing, all right, and it's also moving away from me. All right? What happens if I adjust somebody on the right side and they're at right 10, and I adjust them, and it goes out to right 20? Okay? It's increasing, and it's coming back at me. Interesting. Right? I could adjust somebody on the right side with left weight, and it comes back at me, and it reduces. So it reduces to normal, and it comes towards me. All right? So you have to we're going to start looking at some of these things of what they mean. Okay? And then what happens is after that is integration. Very occasionally in the zigzag will I go after a piece in the zigzag. Unless I have somebody open and reduced, okay, and I see some stability there, I may see a shoulder that is still tilted and it doesn't look like it's where it needs to be on the posture IQ. So I may go after that. But that's a rare case. It's open and watch what the weight does. It's very simple. And the truth is the truth.
I didn't put my picture
okay?
up.
Is you need a set of scales and you need a way to measure the rotation clearly, because if you can't measure the rotation, you can't tell which way this thing's going. Okay? Any questions?
I do. Can you hear me?
Any questions?
Yes.
Go. Brad, could you speak a little louder? Is that Brad?
Yeah, I got it. I have a new microphone. Let me see. If not, then I'll just. Is that better?
It's just a little low. I could hear you. It's fine.
Can you hear that better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay.
Thank
so
you.
when you open it up and then you do the weight does what it does, and then when you go for what you think you should do, and then the weight goes better, but it doesn't open anymore. The rotation collapses again.
Say it again.
I'm just thinking about when you look, you have where you look at it's open. That's the first step, and then you see what the weight did, and when you go to do the weight, then it collapses again.
Okay, that's a great question. We're going to get to that. I'm going to show you that one. Yeah, it's a very simple answer. Okay, here we go. Okay, so what we're going to do is, and guys, listen, this is not as difficult as it sounds. Okay, we take a human being, a live human being. I used to look at it on a piece of plastic, okay, called an X-ray. I now look at it in a structural relationship, a neurological relationship, a breakdown energetic capacity relationship, all right? And I measure this thing on a posture IQ, okay? And it tells me when I look at this what is going on, and then I go ahead and I figure out how I want to release it, how I think it's going to set up, okay? And guess what happens? The only thing that matters is the outcome. That's the only thing that matters. Okay? I used to, collapse things all the time, and I would adjust somebody on the right. They were right 20, and I'd push them, and I'd push them, and I'd push them on the right side, and it would just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it wouldn't move and wouldn't move. Okay? And that got just really old. And that even was after I figured out all this stuff. Okay? You don't really figure it out. You just tap into universal intelligence. Okay? So, so I tapped in. I got this information about the relationships and how to do this, and we've come up with 8,000. I've had 8,000 algorithms on how to try to release this thing because I was always trying to push it to center, push it, and push it every different way. Okay, and the cool thing is that in chiropractic, why does everything work? Is because you can just move things around a little bit, and it's innate intelligence that takes it and says, hey man, you just put me into a place where you just tip the scale just a little bit, and I'm cool. Okay, that's not where I want to be here. What I want to do is I want to have a measurable system that understands what's normal structure, frontal straight, sagittal curve, see that every human being is broken down, put them on some x-rays, put them on a posture IQ, see a postural relationship, figure out what I looks like is stressing and dysfunction, looking at the numbers, looking at the zigzagging, and saying, okay, how do I get this thing out of there? And when I do that and something happens, now I'm talking, okay? And when I take care of people in my office, I'm telling you this, okay? I only used to live in stress because I only wanted an outcome that I wanted, that I thought should happen. That is not what I do. Okay, I watch what happens and allow innate intelligence to guide me through it. And I use those parameters of the rotation reducing and the weight direction that it's going, coming towards, coming away, or reducing or increasing to make decisions. And sometimes, Brad, you know what happens? You get a good release, you open it, and you become a wise guy, and you go, you know what? You're not a wise guy until afterwards, and it fell apart. Okay, before that you were a genius because if you did it and it came up the center, you say, "See, I know how to do that." Okay, but I'm going to tell you that every single person, okay, if every single person on the planet had a different misalignment, they would have different, all would have not different sequences because there's not enough sequences for that, but there would be sequences that are different on every single one of them. You want to know why? Because they're all in the same place at an end result, but they all fell through the ice, okay, through that hole in a different place in the pond. And you got to find that place. You got to find the place that rises it up out of the funnel into that, somewhere in that circumference of 360 degrees on the circle on the top of the funnel. And you got to pop it out. And the only way to do that is to watch how innate intelligence tells you, and it tells you the path out. Okay? And the path out is not something that you find in a day. You may not find that out in a day. Okay? I do a very different care plan and relationship with my patients now. Okay? I used to do a one-day care plan. This is it. Pay me now. Let's go. You don't pay me, you don't do that. You know what I do now? Is they come in for a fee, and then they come in, and I adjust them 3 to 5 times. Okay? I build a relationship with people, and they start getting help, and they see the type of work that we do. And then you just sit down with them at the table, and they start asking you, hey, when are we going to do, get this thing, so we can know how much care I need. Okay. So that's the next webinar that I'm going to do. That'll be next month. Okay. But the post is the first indication. And listen, it would be nice if I just adjusted everybody and everybody popped to 0 to 3 millimeters of rotation and it all went to center and everything integrated and balanced and it was beautifully sustainable. That's not the case. Okay. What is the case is I adjust somebody and I find out from the posture IQ what the body wants. Okay. And sometimes even what it wants, it can't handle. Okay. It's not ready for it. Okay. So these are involved conversations, okay, but they're fun conversations because you actually, after tonight, will start watching what happens, and you'll be able to make some decisions, and you'll be able to see how innate intelligence will start talking to you, okay, you know? So that's why this thing is called postural language. All right. So we're going to look at this misalignment in 4 or 5 different ways, okay, of what happens. Okay, so let's run through this, okay? Any questions up to this point? No? Okay, great. You sure? Don't be bashful. Okay. Okay, look, just don't ever forget I do this for you, okay? So I wanna help you. So if you're uncomfortable with something, just speak up, because somebody also doesn't know it. All right? So, including me. All right. So this postural listing right here says that the low hip is right. We've already gone through this. The spine is to the right. That is normal. The weight is on the left. That's not biomechanically normal for structure. It also says that the shoulder is tilting down on the left, and the neck is tilting to the left, and the head is tilting right. So if you just looked at this, and I would like to get 3 of a kind on this side and 3 of a kind opposing on the other side, the easy relationship here is to go, if I made that an R and that an L on that side, that would be the easiest way. Because it's certainly, a lot more work, if you think about it, to set this up as an LL, change 2 things over here, and then change these 2 things to R's, okay? That being said, when I use that language of changing this and changing that, I don't get the choice to change those things. All I'm doing is trying to figure out how this thing has been damaged and what does it look like, how it's going to set up. Is it going to be that right? And that to me is the easiest way. Change 1 here versus 1 there, okay? And then on top of it is that the left weight over here that is dysfunctioning, the head is tilting to the right for that because the head will always globally compensate. It is the sum total of everything below it. You got me? If the body is on the left, the head has got to tilt to the right, okay? If you put everything over to the left, the head is going to tilt right, all right? It has to. It's supposed to. If it doesn't, there's some issues, okay? And I see those issues because anything's possible. But this is going to set up as an RRR-LLL. And then what we do, the bottom is structure, the top is function. We adjust functional side up, neurology up first, okay? Because the neurology is always trying to bend back, and you can't go ahead and fix a curve. You got to open it and release it. So if I showed you a curve here, hold on. Here? Yeah, here. If this was a curve, like this, and I'm touching somebody up here, I would want to release that this way. Okay, I certainly wouldn't want to release it this way. That wouldn't do a good job. You got me? Say yes.
Yes.
Besides Brad. Okay, so
Yes.
look, this nice curve here. Okay, this is the cervical region up here. I'm going to release this to pop this thing open. You have a spring that's bent over. What would you do? Okay. Now listen, I don't do anything. All I do is release. Okay. When I have a spring that's bent over, okay, take your finger and bend it over. All you got to do is take your finger away from it, and it'll restore back to center. Okay. That's the way a release works. There's no pushing. Okay. There's only releasing what's stuck. And in a broken down system and an anti-tensegrity system, it's broken down, okay? And we need to release it. Okay, so we're going to release this thing left side. That being said, okay, this is what happened in this post. Okay, so what are the questions that we ask ourselves? Number one, did it open? Who wants to tell me? Did it open?
Yes.
Okay, so we had a P11 and an A5. If you add that up, that's 16. Okay, both of those should be 3, and really to be normal and healthy, they should be coplanar. They should be the same. Okay, the shoulders and pelvis should never counter rotate. So obviously this has got some more damage to it, more collapse to it. It's got more trouble. It's weaker. Okay, so we still see a little bit of that. But look, 11 has gone down to a 3, normal, and the 5 has gone down to a 1. It's all within normal limits. So my question is did it open? And the answer is yes. It reduced really nicely. Okay? I mean, you see somebody that comes in with an 18 and it reduces down to a 7. I don't care if normal is 0 to 3. Man, that thing is opening. Okay? You stay with that. Okay? So what did the weight do here? I released it on the left, and what did the weight do?
It reduced.
It reduced. And it's close to normal. There? And it's now on the same side, yes? So I released on the left, and on the left, it reduced and it moved away from me. Very cool. Okay? It tells me that I'm doing the right thing. Okay? I reduced the weight. It's moving away from me the way it's supposed to, creating a more balanced misalignment down below where these structures are now integrated. Okay? The pelvis, the spine, and the weight. All right? The rotation reduced. The only thing that's going on here is the head is tilting right. Okay? And I'm going to tell you, I could care less about that. I want to get guys. If somebody has been in this place for more than probably a month, okay, which all this stuff is from birth onward, it's a culmination of their whole life. It didn't happen yesterday, this kind of zigzagging. They weren't born with 11 millimeters of twist, most likely. They've had all this damage, and things collapsed over time. You will not stretch the human fascia and the ligaments and all the soft tissue back to center to square in a visit. And I'll tell you what, you may never do it. But it doesn't matter because this system is in a whole lot better position, in a least stress position, a more integrated position, that over time, that head will probably turn to the left on its own. So I wouldn't even waste my time with it. Okay, so what do we do here? Should we continue? What did we learn? Okay, so we learned that it's a good release, it likes this, and that person will come in again, probably with the broken down on the left side, because that's the way this thing's broken down. All right, so imagine a big old balloon, and all the way down at the bottom, there's the fabric has been damaged, and there's a kink in it. And you push on it on gravity on top of the head, and it buckles in that place each time. That's what's going on. So what we do over care is find the best way to lift it up, the best way to open it, the best way to move it towards center, and the best way to free it so it can start integrating itself towards a place where it's strong and sustainable. Okay? 12 pounds and a zigzag between these things here are problematic. Okay? And I can't stand up and show you this on a webinar, but how do you have 80% of the human body hip all the way up to the spine on the right and the weight's on the left? Well, you need to be able to understand that. If you don't understand that, how do you fix it? And it's certainly not just because the L5 is a PRS or there's a short leg or C5 has degeneration or there's not a curve. Okay? Those are all of these pieces put together. Okay. So the other thing that I like to look at is what is the strong side? You will see misalignments that are all scrambled up, that are not as clean as something like this. This looks so simple. Oh, I'm just going to, I see the relationship of the structure. I see the relationship to the head. And I see it's going to be RR, LLL. I'm going to release it on the left. It's going to be happy. And guess what? It is, okay? But there's another piece that I learned here. I learned that the right side, and this is not something you learn on a visit, you learn over time. is I learned that it's strong on the right side. Well, look at what it's doing on the left side. Okay, it's collapsing on the left side at an 11 and a 5, total of 16. This is collapsing on the right side, only a total of 4. That's a good indicator that right is the strong side. Okay, and the reason this is important is because, like I said, when misalignments are so scrambled up and they're not as clean as this, you may do a release and see the rotation change, and you see where the weight is, where that is, and you go, okay, that's going to be the structure side. That's for some of those people that have been hanging around with me a little bit. Okay, I'm going to say that again, is that there are misalignments where you have, I can't even tell which the setup is going to be. All right, and the side that I'm going to release it on, because I'm going to see what happens. If it collapses, it moves away, does it open? It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to kick the ball. I'm going to kick it out of the sand trap, and I'm going to watch the direction go. It's a beautiful concept. All right? What I want to do is, in these crazy scrambled up misalignments, is I want to see where the rotation reduces and where the structures start pointing to. When I see that, then I know I could start pointing to what a setup is. So if I release something that's all scrambled up and now it's a right 12 and the rotation reduced down from an 8 to a 2, I'm going to say, okay, the right side may be the strong side, even though it's at a 12. And then I'll set it up as a right, 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 left, 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 and release it left and watch what happens. Okay? That's the power side. And it's an important concept on these scrambled misalignments and any misalignment down the road. Okay. Questions on that misalignment?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Did you say you'd expect the next time they come in that they would probably go back left weight again?
Yeah, why not?
Say that?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Yeah, I would expect to see that. I'd expect seeing that a lot. Okay? But then, guess what? It's maybe not. Okay? Brad, you'll see over time, you can release this, and you may see the weight come in for 8 visits there on the right side, and on the 9th visit, their weight's on the left. You know why? Because life happens. This is not a progressive method. Life and structure are not a progressive method and path of towards nirvana. It has bumps in the road. Fair?
Fair.
But it doesn't matter what I think. If it comes in on the left, I know what to do. Okay? Okay, so we're going to get to what happens in these things, okay? Okay,
Hey, Russ.
Yeah, so this is Brad's question here. Yeah, 1 second. What happens if I adjusted this thing, okay, and they came in next time as this thing, over here like that? Okay, we'll talk about that in just a moment. Yeah, who was talking? Who was asking the question?
That was me. So with this listing that we're looking at right here with the post, would you be done? You say you're happy with that. It's definitely opened up and releasing. Would you be done? I guess it would be on the post 1 where you still had the right head tilt.
Yeah, Tom, I would be done. Okay, but I want to tell you a piece that I feel very comfortable with saying is that, what we're talking about here is a lot of biomechanics, and the piece that we're not talking about is all the application of the adjustment itself, okay, the release. Fair?
That's fair.
Okay, so there's 2 parts to the game. There's understanding the rules, and then there's playing the game, okay? So the umpires do not play the game even though they know the rules, okay? So what I've tried to do over the past 10 years, not in chiropractic, but since I've been kind of doing my own thing, is try to figure out the rules and the best application, okay? So I feel very comfortable when I'm done adjusting somebody that I have released everything to the best of my ability, okay? So in this kind of situation, I've got everything reducing. I feel very comfortable with what I did because I am very tactile. I feel the tension release, okay? I can feel that. It's real for me. It's very real, and it's no different than my own fingers. I'm so connected to it, okay? So that being said, if you hit a baseball, if you've ever played baseball, if you hit a baseball and you hit it on the nose, man, you rip that ball and it's going over the fence, or you just hit a shot. That is the same way. So with this, it's never, Tom, it's not just about the numbers. See, what I want to do is I want to teach everybody. I've spent, 23 years trying to figure out the biomechanics of a global concept in a live system, okay? And where the place where we're going to start teaching much more in Atlanta is how to make that application, okay? And that's a big piece. So yes, I would stop here. And there's times where I'd stop with a lot of things because you know what? Even if it's not where the numbers that I want, I know that I've released it. I had this lady in today, and I released her on both sides. She's so scrambled up. I released her on both sides, and she had a right low hip, a right fixed point. It's just like this misalignment, only she had a left one, okay? And when I released it, it started moving out to the left. It wasn't going to the right with the way I thought it was going to go. So I flipped them over, and it started going out to the right. Okay, so I said, okay, I've released it on both sides. I've hit the ball really well, no question. Okay, I saw great changes on the posture IQ. Okay, see, like all of a sudden it's perfect. Okay, so I said, hey, I hit it on both sides. We're going to allow it to unwind over the next few days, and I'll see you in a week. Okay, so that's what I did. All right, so I know that's a long, convoluted question, but it's not as simple as the numbers for me, okay? It's the numbers are secondary where the hand rules for me, okay? Because I know if I pop the cork, that something's going to happen, okay? And I'll tell you what's interesting is I left a guy that I know that he comes from out of town, and he comes in for an afternoon, and then he comes in the next day. So he was all jammed up. He gets this kind of neurology problem in his sight, in his leg and his foot and stuff like that. And I released it, and then I released it on the other side, and the whole thing collapsed. Okay? And I said, I'm just going to leave it there and just see what happens. He came in the next day, he was standing right up on vertical, and the crap that was going on his leg was gone. Okay? So, things change. I mean, this thing collapsed, and it was on center and no rotation. Okay, I mean minimal, well within normal limits. So, a lot of conversation is this tactile feel and releasing the points on the cervical spine and the attachment so that the body can have its best ability, innate intelligence, can kind of find its way through that hole, so to speak, and up through that funnel. Okay? So here's another one. Okay? And in this one, it's the same pre, the same setup, the same release, but instead of the rotation stayed the same, so it changed, it opened, okay? But the weight did something different, okay? The weight went out to a right 12. Okay. So instead of a right 1, 2, 3, that kind of thing, all right? So it moved away from me with a left release. Left went towards the right. It integrated the structures, okay, down below, the pelvis, the fixed point, and the weight. It opened it, which is job one. I wouldn't even look at the weight. It wouldn't matter to me until I saw that open, okay? So is it open? Yes, it's open. What did the weight do? Okay. Well, the weight didn't, so to speak, increase, okay? It went to the other side, okay, but it didn't go to normal. So it moved away, and let's say it increased because it really didn't get smaller, okay? So I can look at this and I can say, okay, good possibility that the right side is the strong side. And that's, again, important because this could easily set up on the left, okay? And it's important to see the strong side. All right, we want to find the strong side on people. And that is the side where it stays open and the weight relationship. So if it's a left 5 and it's open, most likely the left side is strong. And that may change, though, okay, because there may be multiple kinks inside the system. I never want to just make a statement and say that's the way it is because stuff can change. All right, but you got to measure it. If you don't measure it, you'll never know. Okay, you just, shoot in the dark. So it's open, The weight increased and it moved away from me. Yes? Okay. So what would you do here? It's different.
Did great there. I think it opened, sprung right up. The head went back from right to left.
Okay, Brad, you're talking the head to me, and I know you like that, but integration doesn't matter.
I like the fact that it went from left 12 to right 12.
Okay, fair. Okay, what I like is the fact that it opened. Okay. Now, let me tell you. I'm gonna. This is a little bit of Mod 3 conversation. Most likely, okay. I can't tell you if I would turn this person over and try to close them. We call that closing it. I don't generally prefer to do that. Okay. However, let's assume that this person came in and they had left low back pain. Okay. So as the person leans over to the right, what is it going to do to that left low back pain? Okay, yeah, it's decompressing it on the left side, but what is it doing to the right side? Or what's it doing to the left side? Okay, so as that person leans over to the right, that left musculature is going to traction. So if somebody's got some symptoms that this may aggravate, I may try to turn them over and just give it a bump up the center. But I will do this first. I will always on this patient have them just go lay down. Once they lay down, okay, I get them back up. If that right 12 went to a right 6, you know what I'd say to them? Hey, it's coming to center. I'm going to leave it alone. Okay? If it was going out further, I probably would turn them over and try to adjust them. But I would explain to them what's going on. Is that I just open them, okay, and then I'm going to go and oppose that. And guess what happened? It can collapse again. And then you learn. Okay, the best way you learn is from what? Finding out what doesn't work. It's the way it works. That's the way you learn. Okay, not by doing right things, but by doing wrong things. That's the way you learn. Okay, so if I adjusted this and I decided to turn it over for symptomatic reasons, for I let it rest and it was still increasing, and I didn't want it to go out to 20, I would be really uncomfortable with that, especially if it's Thursday and I'm not going to see patients till Monday, So I tend to turn them over with this possibly, and I may try to bump it up the center and see if I can release a little bit without having, the whole thing fall over. Fair enough? If I rested them and I saw it starting to come back to center, I would leave it alone. If it started increasing, I probably would turn them over. Okay, if they said to me that spot is really sore right now, and I saw that it's under stress because this left to right release, I may try to give them some relief. And it may not help them, okay? It may not help because the whole thing may fall over, but I look at those choices sometimes, okay? And I remember in school, never adjust on a symptom. I don't adjust on a symptom. I adjust on the stress of the body, looking at the posture listing, seeing if the person is going to have a lot of stress from that area, okay? Just because this thing unwinds doesn't mean that I should leave the patient where they have more stress in that area, even though it may be doing the right thing, okay? And all these things fit in, okay? All right, any questions on that one? Okay, so let's look at this one. So now I went ahead and I released this person, same misalignment, same setup, released the neurology, I released it on the left, and guess what happened? What did the rotation do? Basically went from a 16 to a 22. Yeah?
Yeah, it collapsed.
Good? Is that good? That's no good. We call that collapsed. Okay? Anytime it collapses, there's only one thing you do. What is that, Brad?
Go on the other side.
Flip them over and adjust it the other way. Okay? Because innate is telling you that it doesn't like what you just did. All right?
Hey, Russell?
Yes.
Even though it was counter-rotated the first one and the post is not counter-rotated?
Yep. Even with that, it's still getting bigger. Now, Andy, here's the deal. It may have needed that left release to collapse to make that happen. Okay? I'm not disagreeing with that. But that right there is you cannot leave that person there. Okay? Because it also did something else. That left release also integrated the structure. Okay? But job one is open, and you have rotation that is you can't look at that whether it's counter-rotated or not. To look at that and go, that rotation is, I feel comfortable leaving them with that, with 22
Right.
millimeters of rotation, right? Fair?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I want you to see is that left release did something, okay? It may have ricocheted off the wall and collapsed and gone back in the sand trap, okay? But we changed positions in some things. It's not back in the same place, okay? It did do something, okay? It integrated the rotation, and it also integrated the structures. That's great. But either way, I'm flipping this guy over on the right side, okay? And most likely, if this is the case, the right side may not be this wrong side here. This whole thing may shift around. That may be a possibility here. I would look at that. And it's not that I do anything different. I just pay attention to what's going on. I look at what's going on. Okay, I look what integrated. I look what the side that I adjusted on, how it responded. I look at what the rotation did. I see what the rotation did. It went to the opposite side, and it's not really strong there, but it definitely did untwist, so to speak, or uncounter-rotated. I don't think that's a word, but we use it anyway. So, and so it's very simple. It doesn't matter what the weight did. I see a collapse here. I just flip them over, and off I go. Okay? Now, I can easily go ahead and adjust them, and it can collapse back to the other side. Okay, Brad? I could release it on the right side, and it can go back over to the left here to a left 12, and this whole thing collapses even again, or I'm stuck in the same position. Something close. It really, and what do you think I'm going to do then?
Go to back to the other side again.
I'm going to go back to the right, yeah, because some people are so jammed up, and that doesn't happen. That's not common. But I have seen that, where it's like two sides collapse them, and I needed to get that, one side out first before I can get it back, because it really does need to go to that right side. So this first release got some of that good stuff out, but I needed to get all that other stuff out, on the other side as well. Are you hear me on that?
Yes.
Okay, so if I released this and this happened, I would flip them over. If I flipped them over and I adjusted it and it went back over to the left side, which is a good possibility, and it collapsed again, I'd have to flip them back over. And what happens if it cleared out? It did nicely. The rotation started to reduce. I see numbers like 3, 4, 5, 6s on 13s and 9s. Okay? I see the weight starts reducing. It's coming in. It comes 12 to 7, 8. I may go ahead and set up on that again, or I may go rest them and say, hasta la vista, I'm done for the day. I hit them on the left. I hit them on the right. It helped them out. Okay? Well, watch what happens. If you do too many things on a visit, you will never know what works. Okay?
Yes.
It's very simple. Okay? You will never find a pattern. So there'll be times where I will look at somebody and I will, in this case, let's go back here. In this one right here. Okay? I got some great questions I can ask. Okay? If I adjusted this person, do I need to adjust them left, right? Or do I just need to adjust them left? Well, I don't know. Both of them may help the person, but only one of them will help them most for stability. You got me? And how do I do that? I adjust them a couple visits on the left. This is into care. After I get 5, 6 visits out and I'm making sure that I'm open and I'm getting things going, I may start modulating things. Okay? I say, hey, you know what? This thing is still sitting out on the weight on the right side. I'm going to go ahead and now set it up on the right. And I'm going to see how that goes. And I communicate that with the patients. Okay? Fair enough?
Yes.
Okay, good. So what's the matter? Okay, good. That's great. I don't know how to turn it off, to be honest. Oops. What happened there? Okay. So. All right. So next one, post number 3. Any question on those two? Okay, so here's one here. It's interesting. Same pre, same setup, same release. Okay. And we did this one. This is collapsed. This one just collapsed, right? We flip it over. Yes?
Yep.
Number 4. Is that what we did? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. Here, number 4. Same pre, Same setup, same release, and this happened. Okay, so what happened? Did it open? What does that mean? Did the rotation reduce to somewhat normal levels or considerably? The answer is for sure. It went from 11 down to a 3 and a 5 down to a 1. Okay, it still counter-rotated just a pinch, okay, separated by 4 millimeters. Okay, this was separated 16 millimeters. All right? So when I released it on the left, okay, what happened to the weight? Did it increase or decrease?
Increase.
It increased. Okay, so I adjusted it on the left, and did it move away from me or move towards me?
Towards you.
Yes, okay. So what's up with this one? Okay, so it's telling me a couple things. It's telling me that it liked that left release to open it. It likes that left side because it's stronger on that. It seems that it's pretty strong on that side. If you noticed that the left release integrated the fixed point, and what happens is I released it left, okay, and it just bounced back up, okay, and it went over to the left. So it looks like now, what does it look like now in this postural listing, how it's going to set up? It looks like it may set up left, 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 right, right, right. Yes?
Yep.
Okay, but this is the piece that I want you to see. To get the setup, to get everything, the fact is that you need to, that innate intelligence is telling you that it wants to open which direction, left to right or right to left. What did it do? What did the weight do? I adjusted it on the left, and it came at me. So does it go left to right, or does it go left to more left?
Left to more left.
Yeah, left to more left is right to left. Yes?
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So this is an interesting conversation here. This one. This is the one where I follow Innate's lead. I always follow Innate's lead, but what it's telling me is that it wants to open. Look at the way it's opening, friends. It's going from left 12 to left 14. Okay? I'm going to ask that you turn your mics off, please, because there's somebody talking in the background. Thank you. Okay, so this is something that I see every single day. I see this every day where I make an adjustment, it opens, okay, and the weight actually comes at me. So it's telling me it likes the left side. It tells me it wants to be open, not left to right, but right to left. So what do I do on this one? Is I turn it over, okay, and I adjust it right to left. Now any questions on that? Now, guys, I could do that and it can collapse, okay? And I should have left it alone, maybe. Fair enough? Okay?
Yeah. When do you just let it rest? When do you make a choice of?
Oh, I definitely would never. If I adjust something and it comes back at me, okay, I'm definitely flipping it over.
Okay.
Because I always follow Innate.
But there's times when you mention that you let them rest for like 10 minutes or 5 minutes and then come back and see what
Correct.
happens. Is that
Correct.
just
You could do that here. You could do that here for sure. Always. Yeah, is that Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Steve, you could let them all rest, man. Here's the thing, though, okay? You know, I don't see 100 people a day in my office, okay? I see 30, 40 people in a day. I can't do any more than that, man. Okay? It's a great day. $100 a visit. It works out just fine for me. Okay? Yeah. So, that being said, you can't rest and recheck everyone. You can't.
Right. Right.
Otherwise, you're adjusting 60 and 80 people a day. Okay? And second guessing yourself. So,
right. No, I'm just curious what triggers.
I would turn them over and follow Innate. I love following Innate because it's telling me it wants to go right to left. I'm just going to go with it. It's that simple. Okay? And no different if this collapsed and it did this. I would have to turn them over because it collapsed.
Right.
Okay, so if it's coming at you, I generally will turn it over. Okay?
All right,
Especially,
thanks.
fair enough?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we're going to do just a little review in just a moment. I just want to point out two different cases for you here. Okay? So here are two different cases. This is the one that we've been looking at, and this is one that's very similar. The setup on both of these will be the same. We're going to look at this as a right, 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 left, left, left. We're going to look at this as a right, 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 left, 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 which means we're going to open them both up on the left side. But this is the post, okay? Let's look at this for just, actually, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a moment. Let's look at this one here. If I open this one on the left side, what do you think is going to happen? A good possibility could happen to that right weight. It could increase, fair?
Fair.
Fair,
Yeah.
yes?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, listen, I'm not, I want to use the word push so you just get the visual of it. But if somebody is leaning over to the right and I push them right, left to right, that number can get bigger. Fair enough?
Yeah.
If it gets bigger, okay, there's a good possibility that I would turn that over. Okay? I will definitely not do that in this case. There is no way, I don't want to say that, 99% of the time, I would never adjust this person on the left and then flip them over on the right, most likely. Okay? If I had, if the weight, say the weight went out to the right side, say it went to right 12, okay? I would not go ahead and turn that over. Why not? Don't tell me Brad or Andy. This misalignment here, I will definitely adjust on the left, and I can look at it as a pre and say there's a good possibility I'm going to take this as a left-right. Because this weight, I'm going left, and that 12 may pop to center. If it does on the posture IQ, guess what? See you later. Pay the lady at the front desk, okay? Out of here. If it goes bigger, most likely I'm going to turn them over. Only if it opens, of course, okay? I got to get it open first, okay? And the reason for that, and the difference here, is that this is balanced in the structure and this one's not, okay? So there's something going on here that weight is there's a weakness and non-integration between this. Would it make sense that you would push something left to right, you got it over to the right side, and then you would just turn it over and push it back? No, you would not do that, would you? So do you see the difference between those two? Yes or no? Maybe?
Yes.
A little bit? Okay.
Yes.
You should see that. Okay? And the same thing goes if I had a right, left, and a right. If the fixed point was right or the low hip was right and the other two were left. Same thing. You got to be able to open this thing up and get those things integrated. I definitely, if that happened and I got my job is to get this thing to open and get this thing to open and to get that weight over to the other side. That's job one, right? Job 1 and 2. If that happens, I'm not going to go ahead and just push it back over. This one I could do that with because it's already integrated. This one I'm trying to fix a dysfunction. This one I don't have to. Fair enough? So I like looking at these misalignments. I love looking at the energetic component. I love looking at the relationships of structure. I love looking at the neurologic response. I can see these pictures in my head very easily, okay? And then I figure out the setup and I figure out the release and I start putting my hands on them after I patient place them and I just start, releasing the TPs and the spinuses and a couple little areas where all the attachments are. And I just feel for tension and I overcome that tension. Okay? Okay, any questions? I'm going to do about a 10-minute review, and we're out of here in 9 minutes. I'm sorry I'm keeping you long. Okay, so 9 minutes. All right, let me just tell you something. Tomorrow I am sending out an article. Courtney will send it out tomorrow or Saturday, and it will be it's a 3-page review of everything that I talked about tonight, plus this is recorded, okay? You have to get this down, okay? All right, you got to get this down because you got to be able to understand the language of the posture and innate so that you can do your best work. There's just no question about it. You will be a free man and woman if you can get this down. It'll free you up, okay? because you'll be okay with the best that you can do and watching what happens, all right? And you'll watch it instead of trying to force it to something that you think should happen. All right, so here's the deal. Open weight reduces to center. This is the one that's going to be in the article for you, okay? So we have here's the pre, okay? And here's the setup, here's the release, and that's the post. Everybody's happy there, okay? I didn't give you the structure and function. I just showed you the weight and the rotation here. Rotation went from 9 and 9 to 3 and 3, and the weight went from 10 down to a 2. I reduced it on the left, okay? And guess what happened? The weight got smaller. Beautiful, okay? Look at this misalignment. You got this bottom bending right and the top bending left. I flipped the I released that left top, and it went out, opened, and came right up to center all on its own. Why? Because it can. Because it's supposed to. You free the nervous system, you free innate intelligence, you take it out of prison, you unlock it, and guess what happens? It brings it to center on it, it integrates it, and that's what it's doing here. All right? What about this one? I've got it right, left, same misalignment, and it goes to a right 2. Wow, the rotation went down, and I mean, the weight went down, but the rotation is still at a 9 and a 10. It increased just there. That to me is an increase. Not okay. Okay? So what did the rotation do? To me, it increased or stayed the same, which means you're on the wrong side. Okay, so I flip them over. Interesting here is I released them on the left, and the weight did reduce. Okay? So what's that telling me?
Something needed to be released.
I adjusted it on the left. It's telling me, is that Michael? It's coming back at me, isn't it? It's coming at me, yes? The weight.
Right.
I adjusted it on the, so when it's coming back at me, you're generally on the wrong side because I'm going to turn it over and follow an 8. And when that happens, Michael, this is a nice piece for you, is generally you got the wrong setup. Even on this one, you can have the wrong setup. Okay, this whole thing can switch. All right, we'll talk about that another day. Okay, so this thing collapses. I'm definitely flipping it over, but the other indicator is it's coming back at you. Fair enough? Gives you another reason to flip it over. All right? This one is, it opens, okay, 10 and 9, or 9 and 9 goes down to 3 and 3, but the weight gets bigger, okay? Which is a very good possibility. Instead of like in number 1, that left flips out and the whole thing springs back to center, okay, like a boomerang. This one doesn't do that. It just opens up at the top like a flower just opens up. It just sits out there. Well, if this one goes to right 22, what do you think I'm going to do after I rest them? And it's at a right 22.
Flip them over.
I'm going to flip them over and adjust them on the right. So this sequence would be left, right. This one would be a right. And this one would be definitely not a left. I'm going to flip them over on the right and see where it goes. And then we'll go from that post. Okay? Okay. This one is weight. Here we've got a right, rotation. And I released it, and the weight went from right 10 to left 8. It came back at me. So it's telling me that it wants to open not left to right, it wants to open right to left. Okay? So it's opening right to left. So why would I not follow it out right to left? That's the way that innate says it wants to open. That's the best way to see this one. Innate wants to open right to left. So instead of adjusting it with a left release, I'm turning them over and I'm going to adjust them right to left and see what that post looks like. It may turn into garbage after that. It may be fantastic. I don't care. I'm following innate. I love it. Yeah, usually I go, that thing collapses after that, and I go, that was not the right call. Let's go do that. Let's go back on the left, okay? And that's what you do. And you have people that come in with multiple misalignments, and nothing you do in this method is wrong, okay? Because when you make a change, okay, I told you before, it's like having that nail that's all bent up. It needed to go right, and then it needs to go left, and then it needs to go right. Some of these things have to be wiggled out to get all these compressions out, or a lot of them that are sitting top of the original misalignment so that you end up with what over time? Some type of consistent pattern. That's what you're going to look for. I do pattern work all day long. I watch this pattern change from here to back to this one to that one. And over time, I see consistent changes and consistent patterns. Okay? And it's not easy to look at these things. It's difficult. These segments are tough to see. You know? It's tough. Okay, but the cool thing is that open is open. Okay? And you can measure that all day long. All right? So I don't have to worry about the integration of structures as much as I do with open and following the weight. Okay, and when I do that, guess what happens? It starts balancing on its own, integrating on its own, and becoming sustainable on its own. Okay, I can't impress that on you enough. Okay, is that you don't have to do those things for the patient. You need to find how to open it and then follow the weight. All right, here we go. Last one. All right, this one is not one we talked about. We talked about it, but we didn't have it written down. Is it went to the other side and it collapses. So unlike this one that opened, okay, and went to the other side, you would flip it over to follow 8 in 8. This one, you'll flip it over, not because you want to follow an 8, but the whole thing collapses. And the rule is if it collapses, you got to flip them over. Okay? So you'll start digesting this stuff, and you'll see it. Job 1 is to open. Job 2 is to understand what the weight is doing to see what side you're on. Okay? And then guess what happens once you understand this? Is that there are 26 release points up in the neck. All right? And everybody's got some little combination of them. All right? If I'm on one side, okay, what is the sequence that I follow? And it's very simple right now. All right? And we'll discuss that more probably in the next few months. And we'll also start discussing that much more in Atlanta and actually start feeling those points with some good corrections and good release labs. All right? So that's what's next, is that if we can get this biomechanics down and we can get everybody that understands the postural listing, what the structures are, what the neurology is, what it means in our language, balance, open, sustainable, integrated, biomechanically correct, neurologically correct, and that's all the postural listing. And the stress in the system, that's what you learn from that simple expression of 9 things. 9 pieces, and you learn the world. Okay? Everything about it. If somebody shows me a posture listing, I can draw a picture of that spine 3-dimensionally or that body 3-dimensionally on a piece of paper for you. Okay, and I can tell you what the structure, the neurology, and everything's doing. All right? This is the next piece to that. So if you can get on board with understand the postural listing and following an 8, and obviously you need to own a posture IQ, okay, because it's not about the scales. The scales are secondary. You can't measure rotation without one unless you get a 2x4 that like some of you have done and, you know, bungee cord it and so forth and so on. Okay? So any questions on everything I'm talking about? I'm done. This is my last slide, I believe. Yeah. Number 20. I know you big guys been champs. Okay, I try to give you everything I got in a month. All right, so in the past and where I come from is I come from a place that you need to pay to play, meaning be a member of a group. Okay? So that's not what we do at QSM3, okay? We've done that in the past, and we're not doing that this year, okay? Because you don't have to pay to be a member. You need to participate to be a part of something. There's no membership, okay? I teach 3 classes a year, two Mod 1 and 2 conferences that are CC accredited in most states. I don't know if it's in your state. And then we have a class in July. So we have an April class in Atlanta this year. We have a July class in Davenport, which is just a Mod 1. It's a small class. And then we have a Mod 2 in Newport, California. Okay? So what do you get for hanging out with me? And to me, the most, in my experience, there is nothing more comprehensive, nothing more alive, and nothing more real than this system. Everybody else is looking at pieces and parts, and I'm trying to put them together. Okay? That being said, is that we do a webinar every Thursday of each month. almost every day I try to post something on Facebook just to kind of bend your mind a little bit. Sometimes I give you answers. Sometimes I give you attitude. Okay, it's all mixed up. I try to appeal to everybody's common to their personality. Okay, we have a process in the method that we will be recertifying people because the method after 10 years and the stuff that we're doing now is completely full circle. We want to get everybody on board, and that's what this webinar is about, is to make that happen. So between this webinar, the next webinar, and the Atlanta class, at the Atlanta class and after the Atlanta class, we will be recertifying everybody to a place that's called a proficiency level. And that is a combination, it's already up on the website, it's a combination of how much you participate and how much you engage in certification. If you're a student, you can step into the Q certification. You can't go further until after you're a student, and that's a test. It's a 40-question test. You could take that in Atlanta if you want in April. Okay, it'll be probably on Saturday morning. You'll be well prepared. If you are a S, okay, because certification is Q, S, M, and 3. If you are an S or an M, you will take a Q test and an M test. Okay, excuse me, the Q test and the S test. Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody is up to speed on the information because we are, again, full circle. And it'll be good for the group. This is good for the group to get everybody on that page, and certification will do that. If you're not in certification, you don't want to be in certification, well, that's your biz. But I'll tell you that if you get into certification, what you were saying is very simple. I want to do the best work, and I want you to help me. And I will do that for you. I will help you. Okay? So that's what I want to do for you. That's what I do for you, is the webinars, the Facebook, the classes. Okay? There's no big charges for memberships. We have a website. If you want to be on it, you just need to let me know. Okay, you need to say that you kind of care about the work that we do. Otherwise, if you're using it for business, please don't do that. Okay, so that's about it. So Steve Jobs wrote this, and he said, and it's one of the things that I've noticed is that I've gone from a place where I used to measure the smallest minutia, and I took that mentality and that's what the medical model does, is it looks at the smallest thing down to some subatomic level, MRI, CT, blood test, genetic test, and you know what it means, guys? Nothing. Okay? I've stepped back, okay, because a bone out of place doesn't mean anything to me. What I look at now is a three-dimensional human being that's alive, that is in distress. And I can have a three-dimensional conversation with you about the x-rays, about the posture, and all the stuff that I've mentioned over and over again. And it's become very simple. And it's easy. It is. It's an easy process. All right? It's easy to understand, and I believe it's easy to apply. Okay? After you do about 100,000 adjustments. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so Steve Jobs said, that's been one of my mantras, focus and simplicity. Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple, but it's worth it in the end because once you get there, you can move mountains. Guys, I step into my office, I move mountains on every single patient all day long to beyond where I could ever imagine and exactly where I hoped I could be. Okay, that doesn't mean that everybody gets well and everybody's fixed. Okay, but it's a measurable method that is really current with the times in a global way. So I hope that you come to Atlanta. I hope that you're on the next webinar. And if you want to reach out to me on Messenger, you're welcome to do that. I'm happy to talk to you on the phone and help you. Some people are uncomfortable with some of this stuff because they're new. We will talk about this and you'll start seeing it and start understanding it. Okay? So I look forward to your support. Okay? I'm giving you my support with these things. And I hope to see you soon next month in Atlanta. Any questions? All right. I love you all, man. Peace and love. Have a beautiful day. And if you're helping people tomorrow, I hope this helps you out.
Thanks, Russell.
Thanks, Russell.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Russell.
Cheers.
Hey, Russell.
Yes, sir. Andy?
When you got a pretty good balancing alignment, but there's still there's still a compression in the hips. You just approach like 3D misalignment, just see if you can find where it's still stuck.
Okay, so if you think that the hip is the issue, you need to adjust on the structure side then. That's the low hip. That's the problem.
Yeah, I did that and it just won't budge, so I guess I have to work a lot more on the opposite side.
Well, I don't know, Andy. It may be that you're missing a piece. Sometimes they won't budge, They're not so
Right.
simple.
I am.
Sometimes you got to stay with them. Sometimes you got to get them some fascial work, some stretch work, that you want to open up that side because that musculature and, down along that whole, that from the foot all the way to the TFL, that myofascia has just shortened.
Mhm.
Right? Yeah, it's funny you ask me that because that's what I've been looking into with some of that stuff there. I mean, I don't think we need to adjust the pelvis, but I think that we need to get better at isolating that line and some support work because the pelvis is so big, it falling down and you trying to lift it up is a job.
Well, I find that the women have those saddles on the hips.
Right.
And as I lift up at C5, you can kind of release the pelvis, and as the pelvis releases, that all that fascia will start relaxing, and that saddlebag starts going away.
Right.
But it seems like there's still a piece in there that I have trouble.
Okay, so C5 is the secondary connection. Okay, C7 is the main connection. Okay, for the lower pelvis. Okay, C5 is a secondary support.
Well, I go down into C7 and there's one person, and doesn't seem to be much there, and it seems like all attention is at C5.
Okay, so I can tell you from my experience, every single person has a mountain at C7.
Right.
So if you're not feeling it, you're not getting your hand in there, you're not getting that pisiform into that corner well enough to get that attachment, and you just got to slow down to do that. Okay. And now another piece, Andy, is you may want to bend the head down so that you can get those spinuses, those TPs a little bit. Just drop the chin down. You'll kind of separate the transverses a little more, and you may notice that a little bit easier with your pisiform.
I started noticing when I flex the head, I can really feel like I can lift the rib cage up.
Okay, so just make sure that people don't lock themselves in that position, that when you put them down, that you tell them to relax there so that you can create some dynamic, stretch so you can pull all the way down into that pelvis. The other thing that you may want to do is you can have them straighten the top leg. Okay, that'll also create tension all the way down further rather than bending the leg. Okay?
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay.
Awesome, thanks.
You got it, brother. All right, good night, guys.
Good night.
Ladies. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you.
Good night.
All right.